Adventurous kids explore with education and learning what a wildlife is in the Everglades. I want to explore the Museum of Discovering Science. What plants do butterflies like? I want to know about Key West. Adventurous kids, learning and fun. Adventurous kids!
Today I'm going to tell you about invasive species. An invasive species is a non-native species that spreads from the point of introduction and becomes abundant. The invasive species label attaches only to populations of species whose impact upon introduction has altered their new environment. Although this impact can be beneficial, the term as most often used applies to introduce species that affect the invaded habitats and bioregions adversely, causing ecological, environmental, or economic damage. This includes plant species labeled as exotic pest plants and invasive exotics growing in native plant communities. The term is also used by land managers, botanists, researchers, horticulturalists, conservationists, and the public for noxious weeds. Let's say a new animal X moves, and animal X also eats grass and leafy greens. Now rabbits are in competition with animal X. If animal X starts eating the rabbit's supply of grass and leafy greens, that means some rabbits will either starve, move away, or simply not grow in population. Animal X is living very comfortably, and before you know it, has taken over the whole area. As a result, rabbits have vanished. But wait, foxes hunt rabbits and squirrels for food. So now the foxes must eat only squirrels. As a result, the squirrel population is decreasing too. And do you see the chain reaction that could happen as a result of an invasive species? They hurt the biodiversity of an environment. This means that there isn't as much of a wide variety of living things anymore. Starting in the 1980s, the swamps of the South Florida Everglades have been overrun by one of the most damaging invasive species the region has ever seen, the Burmese python. The Burmese python is a large, non-venomous constrictor that is an invasive species in Florida. Burmese pythons are found primarily in around the Everglades ecosystem in South Florida, where the snakes represents a threat to native wildlife. They disrupt the ecosystem by preying on native species, outcompeting native species for food or other resources, and or disrupting the physical nature of the environment. They have all but decimated the region's small and medium-sized mammal population, wreaking havoc with the area's ecosystem. They are comparable in size or even larger than adult native snake species and quickly reach sizes that reduce their vulnerability to predation. Although it is important to note that they have often been targeted by the Native American alligator as prey when invading into its territory. Because female pythons can lay 50 to 100 eggs per year, and the creatures have no natural predator in the region, the threat continues to escalate. Native to Southeast Asia pythons were first brought to the United States as exotic pets when the exotic pet trade boomed in the 1980s. Miami became host to thousands of such snakes because pythons can grow to such unmanageable sizes. It was inevitable that some irresponsible owners would release the snakes into the wild, but most experts believe the pythons established a reproducing population in the Everglades. Sometime after Hurricane Andrew, a Category 5 storm that devastated the state in August 1992, it was during that storm that a python breeding facility Today, authorities have no idea how many pythons occupy the area in large part because the Everglades, in their vast inaccessibility, are so hard to conduct surveys in, and the mottled brown snakes blend well into the scrubby environment was destroyed, releasing countless snakes into the nearby swamps. Pythons can be humanly killed on private lands at any time with landowner permission, no permit required, and the FWC encourages people to remove and kill pythons from private lands whenever possible. Pythons may also be killed at any time throughout the year from 25 wildlife management areas, public small game hunting areas, and wildlife and environmental areas where pythons are known to exist. There is no bag limit, and pythons may be humanly killed by any means other than traps or firearms, unless provided for by specific area regulations. Lionfish have become a poster child for invasive species issues in the western North Atlantic region. Their notoriety as invaders is on par with zebra mussels, snakeheads, and even Asian carp. Their populations continue to expand, threatening the well-being of coral reefs and other marine ecosystems. This includes the commercially and recreationally important fish that depend on them. Adult lionfish are primary fish eaters and have very few predators outside of their home range. Researchers have discovered that a single lionfish residing on a coral reef can reduce recruitment of native reef fish by 79%. Dang, boy! Look at trees, also known as punk trees or paper bark tea trees, are native to Australia and Florida. However, Melaleuca is a pest, especially in the Everglades and surrounding areas where the trees grow into dense forests, virtually eliminating all over vegetation. Melaleuca produces huge quantities of seeds which become small trees which grow into almost impenetrable monocultures. Researchers are attempting to find ways to control Melaleuca herbicides are proving to be somewhat effective, but purposely set management fires and lightning-started fires apparently actually help spread the seeds and trees. Recently, biological control insects have been released against Melaleuca, but it will be some time before biocontrol results will be known. In the U.S., ash trees are in trouble due to an invasion of emerald ash borers. These insects probably got there by lurking of wood packaging from East Asia. These beetles bore or drill into ashes, which unfortunately kills the trees. If these insects aren't stopped, they could kill most of the ash trees in North America. That'll be hard on the many native insect species that live, breed, and munch of the ash trees. If their population decline, native birds like woodpeckers will have less food to eat. The Australian pine is a tall, non-native tree found throughout South Florida and parts of Central Florida. It was introduced to Florida in the late 1800s as a salt-tolerant tree that could provide shade and serve as a windbreak along coastal areas, but since then it has become a major problem. It's an aggressive grower that spreads into natural areas and smothers native plants under a heavy blanket of needle-like litter. The state of Florida has classified Australian pine as a noxious weed and prohibits people from cultivating or planting it. If you have one on your property, consider making a Florida-friendly choice and having the tree removed. That way it won't be able to spread its seeds into natural areas. However, there are already successes like on Alaska's Aleutian Islands. One became known as Rat Island after it was overrun by invasive rats. They hitched a ride on a ship in the late 1700s. For over 200 years, devoured eggs and hatchlings of native birds, causing their populations to sadly plummet until conservation scientists stepped in with a plan. Brightly colored poison birds would recognize that bright color means poison, but rats wouldn't happily. By 2010, the island was rat-free and native bird populations were recovering. We can all help to prevent new invasions, like by planting native plant species in our gardens. Instead of invasive plants, do not release animals into the wild. It is against the law to do so, or adding to research through citizen science projects. It can be as easy as going out and recording the native and invasive species you see. The more scientists know, the better they'll control invasions. Do you own an exotic pet you are no longer able to care for? You can surrender your exotic pet free of charge at Exotic Pet Amnesty Day. The Exotic Pet Amnesty Program is an effort to reduce the number of non-native species being released into the wild by pet owners who can no longer care for their pets or no longer wish to keep them. Another goal of the program is to foster responsible pet ownership through outreach and education at Exotic Pet Amnesty Day events. Thank you for watching this episode of Adventurous Kids Band.
What did you learn today?
Adventurous Kids.
Adventurous kids!
What was the most interesting fact?
Adventurous kids!
Adventurous Kids.
Adventure!